Let's cross now to our regional correspondent, Layla Molana-Allen, who joins us now from Beirut. Layla, just tell us a little bit more about the context of this airstrike. Talk us through some of the events that sort of led up to this morning's airstrike on the edge of Baghdad.
Indeed, so this attack didn't come out of nowhere. Just in the last few days, we've seen quite a few events happening in Iraq, which really symbolizes at the moment the way that all these different proxy wars are playing out across the Middle East, in which two of the major players, of course, are Iran and the US. So we had on the 27th of December, a week ago, this really major escalation when a US contractor was killed in Kirkuk in the north of Iraq by a rocket attack. Now, he wasn't necessarily targeted, but he did die as a result of this attack. And that really was seen as going outside of the bounds of what America would accept. And then, of course, on New Year's Eve, we saw an attack on the US embassy in Baghdad as well. People trying to break in. That's not the first time this has happened. But over the last few weeks, we've been seeing these protests growing in Baghdad. Now, they are anti-government protests, young people taking to the streets, but there has been a large group of those protesters who increasingly have been seen as anti-American. Now, some believe that they are being funded and instigated by this group, the Hashid Shabi. Now, they are a group of Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, which Soleimani ran as one of the many groups across the region that he ran. And this group of protesters who were increasingly making these protests anti-American were seen as being run by that network. And so for America, this also was seen as particularly problematic because, of course, they have such interests in Iraq ever since 2003, and very concerning for them, the idea that the populace could be being turned against their involvement in Iraq. But going even further back last year, we saw other levels of escalation by Iran. Of course, we saw the taking of that oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz, and we also saw the attack on a Saudi oil base as well. So there really have been these escalating tensions over the last year, particularly since a year and a half ago, President Trump decided to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal, and Iran saying that they would take all measures they could after sanctions were reimposed on them.
Okay, and in Iraq, you know, the authorities have been swift to condemn the airstrike this morning, saying that it could unleash a devastating war in Iraq. And I'm assuming there are concerns in Lebanon as well, because, of course, Iran has its proxies there.
There are indeed, of course, already today the US has called for all US citizens to leave Iraq as soon as possible. That has not happened in Lebanon yet. Lebanon, of course, has Hezbollah here, which is one of the groups that was funded by Iran and run indirectly by Qassem Soleimani. And the other thing to remember as well is, although it's not getting as much attention, Mahdi al-Mohandes, who ran some of those Iranian-backed Iraqi militias, was also killed. And he was the leader of Kataib Hezbollah, which is a group that trained with Hezbollah in Lebanon. So very clear links there with what's happened this morning. And the Lebanese Hezbollah leader has come out with a statement, Hassan Nasrallah, and he has praised both of these men who were killed. He says that their blood will not be in vain, they are martyrs, and we will continue their cause. If anything, this will make the feeling against America and the battle against America and their evil doings even stronger. So that's been the reaction from Lebanese Hezbollah here, but the reality is somewhat different. Already Iran was struggling. They were really struggling financially to be able to keep up all their payments to all these militias across the Middle East and further afield. And now, with the death of their main, really, foreign and military leader, seen as Qassem Soleimani, seen as second only to Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader in Iran, this is a devastating blow to them. I was speaking to an analyst earlier today who said this is the most extreme step of foreign policy taken in the Middle East by America, perhaps ever. Really a devastating blow to Iran. So although lots of talk about war in the region and everyone immediately firing off, it's actually likely that Iran will take a moment to take a breath and think about what to do next, having lost such an important figurehead for them. There might be some small strikes, and it may well be that Hezbollah is asked to act in Syria, which of course is another one of these proxy wars where Iran and the US have been facing off against each other. But in terms of all-out war, really no fears of that here yet, as Iran will have to take some time to rebuild its military infrastructure following the death of Qassem Soleimani.
Yeah, indeed. And we've been talking so much, haven't we, in recent weeks about just all the different fronts where Iran is feeling considerable pressure, not least in Iraq and in Lebanon. Thank you so much, Layla Molana-Allen. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. Well, let's